Beginning of the chapter, we can create Java applications for different devices like desktops, web servers, mobile devices, and so on. And there are separate platforms dedicated for developing these different types of applications. And this course is about one such platform called Java SE, which stands for Java Standard Edition. And in this lecture, let's get a good high-level understanding of what Java SE platform is. The Java software family includes multiple platforms targeting different types of devices, and there are three main platforms that are most commonly used. And the first one is the Java Standard Edition, or Java SE in short, which is the subject of this lecture as well as the course. And previously it was called as J2SE. And it is used to develop standalone applications that typically run on desktops but may also run on servers. An example can be a hospital management system used within a hospital. Such a system is a standalone system. That is, it would be installed on different desktops within the hospital, and the hospital administration staff would use it to enter information like patient details and which doctor will be treating the patient, and so on and so forth. We do see that when we visit hospitals. Next is Java Enterprise Edition, or Java EE in short, and this was previously called as J2EE. And it is used to develop large-scale applications that run on web servers. Now, when we say large scale, it implies large number of users will be using the application at any given instance of time. An example would be an e-commerce website like Amazon. And you might have heard of technologies like servlets and JSPs, and they fall under Java EE platform. And Java EE is built on top of Java SE platform. So Java SE technology serves as a foundation for Java EE. So Java SE is not constrained to just building standalone applications, but it is needed for building large-scale web applications too. It is just that we need more than what Java SE offers, and that's where some of the other technologies within Java EE come into play. Now, note that in 2017, Java EE has been rebranded as Jakarta EE, as Java EE's development has been shifted from Oracle to Eclipse Foundation. Eclipse is a foundation which is also responsible for developing Eclipse IDE. And Eclipse Foundation has chose to rename it as Jakarta EE, but originally it used to be with Oracle. And third platform is Java Micro Edition, or Java ME in short, and this was previously called as J2ME, and it is used to develop applications for resource-constrained devices like mobile phones and set-top boxes. So it is mainly for small devices which have limited memory and limited processing power. While Java EE is built on Java SE, Java ME uses a subset of Java SE. And in this course, we will be learning about Java SE as it represents the core Java programming language. We will also briefly get into Java EE at the very end, as the course project is a web application and we use some basic Java EE technologies like servlets and JSPs. Note that even if you want to develop Java EE or Java ME applications, you still need to have a solid foundation in Java, as both Java EE and Java ME, as we can see, are based on Java SE. And you may also know that to develop full-featured Android apps, we need to know Java. So having sound foundation in Java is very important, and this course is all about setting that foundation firmly. Not having a good foundation in Java can really hurt your performance as a software engineer when you are developing Java EE or Android applications. So it is important to learn Java well, give it the time it needs, and once you have a good background in Java, learning these other platforms is pretty easy, and it shouldn't also take too much of time to acquire those skills. Now, strictly speaking, each of these different platforms define one or more specifications. And a specification is simply a document that describes the technology in plain English. So it is not a software and just a document. So the software, which is the implementation of the specification, would be something different. And an implementation can come from different providers like Oracle or Amazon or IBM and so on. So a specification is like a blueprint for a house, and the implementation is the actual house itself. Now the course is about Java SE, so let's focus on it. Java SE defines few specifications, and one is the Java language specification, or JLS in short, and it defines the entire Java programming language itself. That is, it defines the syntax and semantics of the language, that is the rules of the language, and it is the most comprehensive and accurate document that you can get on Java, as it is written by the Java language designers themselves, like James Gosling. So it is like any good book on Java, but is not easy to understand, at least for a beginner. Okay, later we will also look at the Java language specification, which is online. And next specification is Java virtual machine specification, which defines how a JVM should work. And it also specifies the bytecode instruction set, and we will look at some of the bytecode instructions in the JVM internals chapter. And it also includes the Java API specification, which is nothing but the specification of the Java library. So that's what Java SE specification is, and it has many implementations. One is the official implementation from Oracle, and it is referred to as Oracle JDK, where JDK means Java Development Kit. Then there is Oracle's OpenJDK. So this also comes from Oracle. The difference between Oracle JDK and OpenJDK is that OpenJDK is completely free, while with Oracle JDK, you would have to pay Oracle if you are using it for commercial purpose. And with that, you would also get their support for fixing any bugs in the implementation. Now, OpenJDK is completely free, so it is free even for commercial purpose. But since we are learning Java here, it is fine to use even Oracle JDK. And there are also many other providers, and few prominent ones are Adopt OpenJDK, Amazon's Corretto, and Red Hat's OpenJDK. These are also free, just like Oracle's OpenJDK. Now, each of these implementations is basically a JDK, that is Java Development Kit, and we need a JDK to write, compile, and execute our Java programs, and soon we will install one of the latest versions of JDK. And let's see what a JDK would contain. It would obviously include a JVM, which implements the JVM specification, right? And it would also include the actual Java API code, that is the Java library code, which is a predefined functionality that we can readily use when writing our Java programs. And it would also include development tools like the Java compiler, so that we can compile our Java programs. So all JDKs that we get from the different providers would include these components. JDK is also referred to as Java SDK, where SDK stands for Software Development Kit. SDK is more of a general term, and many times developers may also refer to JDK as Java SE, although strictly speaking, Java SE is a set of specifications, just as we discussed. Now, here, the JVM and the Java API are collectively referred to as JRE, which stands for Java Runtime Environment. Oracle used to offer such a JRE separately from JDK, although JDK includes a JRE. That's because JRE, as its name Java Runtime Environment suggests, is essentially a runtime environment. That is, it is an environment used to only run Java applications. So you cannot develop Java applications using JRE. So if you are shipping your Java application to your clients, then your clients would only need to install a JRE to run it. They do not need development tools like the Java compiler, which come with the JDK. So they do not need a JDK, but they need a JRE. However, Such a separate JRE was offered only till Java SE 10, where 10 is one of the versions of Java SE. From Java SE 11 onwards, Oracle stopped offering it as they were including a tool called JLink, which can be used to create a custom JRE. And this custom JRE can be smaller in size than a regular JRE, or one can simply install a JDK itself, as it also includes a JRE. So JRE is not included separately by Oracle from Java 11 onwards. But regardless of whether a separate JRE is available or not, we as developers who develop Java programs would need a JDK, as it includes tools like Java Compiler, which is needed to compile our programs. And since it also includes a JVM, since the JDK includes a JVM, we can also execute our programs. Okay, so JDK is what we need. Now, earlier it was mentioned that these are some of the prominent JDK providers. Although these are different implementations, they are all based on the same source code, and this source code is developed as part of this project called OpenJDK. And this source code is open source, and it was originally proprietary to Oracle, but later Oracle made it open source so that anyone can contribute to it, including engineers from companies such as Oracle, Amazon, and IBM. Now, when we say source code, it would mainly be the Java library or the Java API code and a JVM implementation called Hotspot. And Hotspot is written in C++. So all these different providers would include the same API code and the Hotspot JVM. However, certain providers might add some non-core functionality and may also provide additional services like offering paid support, like in the case of Oracle's JDK. Now, Adopt OpenJDK also provides the option to use another JVM called OpenJ9, which is from the Eclipse Foundation. OpenJ9 is also open source and was originally developed by IBM. So Hotspot and OpenJ9 are two different JVM implementations, and both are great. Hotspot is more like a standard one because it was originally developed by Oracle. Okay, and it's also part of OpenJDK. But OpenJ9 is also very good. So keep in mind that Java is open source. Now let's briefly look at the Java SE specifications that are available on the web. So just go ahead and Google for Java SE specification, and the first result here is this link which says Java SE specifications, and it is from the oracle.com site, and just click on that. So here it shows the Java SE specifications, and it shows the different releases like the Java SE 14, which is the latest release, and there are also the previous releases like the Java SE 13, 12, 11, and so on. And you may see some other release here depending on when you are accessing this. So here we know that the Java SE is a set of specifications, and one of them is the Java language specification or JLS, and the other one is the Java virtual machine specification, and there is also the Java API specification. It is not linked from here, so we need to look at it separately, and I will show you the Java API specification in a bit. So here, let's go ahead and click on this HTML, which shows the HTML version of the specification. And as I told you, the Java language specification defines the Java programming language itself. Okay, so it defines the syntax and the semantics, like the rules of the programming language. And as I said earlier, it is authored by the language designers like James Gosling here and other designers here. So here you can view the table of contents, okay? But like I said earlier, it's not very easily comprehensible. For a beginner, definitely it is not easy to understand because it uses a certain formal way in which they explain things, okay? And it is not very digestible. So you do need a book or an online resource such as this to understand the language. But once you gain some experience, sometimes if you have any questions or if you have any doubts while you're programming, you may refer to this document. Okay, so you can look at it later. It's not that important. So let's go back, and this is the Java virtual machine specification. Okay, and here also let's click on this, and it tells about how the JVM should work. Okay, and here are the table of contents. Okay, it talks about the architecture and the different things within the JVM, and a JVM implementation has to adhere to this particular document. And like I said, a specification is simply a document written in English, and at the very end here it lists out all of the bytecode instructions, and we know that a Java program is compiled into Java bytecode, which is nothing but the Java bytecode instructions, and these are all the different instructions. Okay, and we will review some of them later on. Okay, so let's go back, and next in a different tab, just search for, let's say, Java 13 API. Just Google for that. And the first link here is the Java API, and it is also from the Oracle's website. And if you see the path here, it says API. Let's click on this. So this is the Java API, and this is how it is. The look and feel very unique. So the Java API is nothing but it describes the Java library, okay, which contains the predefined functionality that we Java programmers can use. And most of this library, the predefined functionality, is in the form of classes. Classes are fundamental units of the Java language. Okay, a class is a very fundamental unit, and a Java library has tons of classes, thousands of classes, and they're all packaged into something called packages. And very soon we will also write our own first Java class, and within this course we'll be writing a lot of Java classes, but the library itself comes with a lot of classes. So I'm not going into this particular document at this point of time, because later on we will review this, but it does provide a lot of packages, and you would have separate packages for data structures, and you can readily use those data structures. Similarly, there will be packages for doing input-output, like reading and writing into files, and also for other purposes. So that's the Java API. Now here, every release comes with something called as a JSR. And a JSR stands for Java Specification Request. So as you can see, there is this release with this JSR, and it also has a number, JSR 389. Similarly, Java 13 has JSR 388, and most of these releases also have their own JSRs, and JSR stands for Java Specification Request, and it mainly describes the features that got added within this particular release. And those features can be some changes in the Java language itself, okay, or it can be something to do with the JVM, like maybe a new algorithm has been added for doing garbage collection, okay, so something like that, or it can be some new classes being added to the Java API itself. So it can be any of those changes. Okay, so when something change happens to the Java language, then the compiler also has to be updated. So they need to make a lot of changes there. Okay, a Java language change could be something like, for instance, in Java 8, they introduced something called as the lambda expressions. So that's a change in the language, and so the compiler also has to be updated, and some relevant API changes were also had to be made. Now this Java specification request over here, this is called as an umbrella JSR, and each JSR, like I said, it describes certain features, and some of the features are major features and some are minor, and the major features can also have an associated JSR. Okay, each major feature can have an associated JSR, and which means that this JSR can have some component JSRs. Now this JSR is initially proposed when they want to come up with a new release. It is done by a specification lead, and the JSR would go through different phases. Initially there would be a draft phase, and then finally it goes through multiple stages, and finally there will be a final specification, and it would include all the real features, and some of the features which were initially proposed may not make it to the final specification. So this process of developing this JSR through different stages is called as Java Community Process, or JCP in short. Okay. So that is just for your information. So you need to know what a JCP is. It's a formal mechanism or a formal process to develop Java specifications. So that way the language is continuously being evolved. And later on, maybe once you're done with the course, you can read about it. It's not that important to know about at this point of time, but you need to at least know what a JCP is and what a JSR is. So that's about it. So just to summarize, we looked at Java SE, and we know where it stands within the Java software family. It is the core of the Java software platform family. And we know that Java SE is a bunch of specifications, and there are also JDKs which implement a Java SE specifications, and these JDKs come from different providers. And all of these providers, we said, most of them are based on a common source code, okay, an open source code which is developed by the OpenJDK project. And we also know that these specifications are developed through a process called JCP, which is a Java community process. And every Java release has this umbrella JSR. It's called as an umbrella JSR because it includes all of the different features. And in the next lecture, we will look at the different releases and discuss a bit about the release cycle and what comes along with each release cycle, with each release. Thank you, and see you in the next lecture. In this lecture, we will look at the different releases and the release cycle, like how often a release is being made and generally what comes out in the release, and also a little bit about the history of the releases. So here we are. In a given year, currently they are doing 2 releases, one in March and one in September. For instance, in 2019, in March, they released Java SE 12. Okay, so along with that, all of the providers would also try to come up with a JDK implementation, okay, like the Oracle, Amazon, the OpenJDK, Oracle, and so on. So here, this was released in March 2019, which is the specifications, and the JDKs would come separately. And Java 13 was released in September. So every year, they are doing one release in March and one in September. So that's a 6-month release cycle. And this 6-month release cycle started from Java 10 onwards. And before that, the releases were much less frequent. So they used to release anywhere from once every 2 to 5 years. For instance, Java 6 came out in 2006, 7 came out in 2011. So there is a gap of 5 years, and 8 in 14 and 9 in 17. So the problem with this is Java was evolving very slowly, right? While other platforms and other programming languages were evolving very quickly, so they were doing releases very quickly. So Java was not like that. It was very slow and was not as agile as other platforms or programming languages. Because of that, the innovation was kind of slow. So they wanted to make it faster. So the reason why it used to happen is because the designers were always trying to bring out large, big features in every release. For instance, in 8, there were Lambda expressions, and 8 was a very huge release. Similarly, in 9, they had something called as modules. Okay, the Java platform module system, which was also a very huge change. So they have certain deadlines to meet, but because those features are so complex, the deadlines were constantly getting extended and the release was not happening. But the problem with that is, in a release, apart from these big features, there would also be some smaller features and which are completed, but we are unable to use it because the release itself is not happening. So the release was stopping those small features to see the light. So we are unable to use those small features. So the Java designers wanted to change that, and so they decided to do frequent releases from Java 10 onwards. But the difference is that in each release, they will only have fewer features coming out. Like if there are any smaller features, they would come out, but the larger features would also come out in one of the releases. But in each release, you will see only few changes being made. So that's the thing. So they wanted to be agile like all other platforms too. So here this particular document shows only till Java 6, but before Java 6 there were also 5 other releases, 5 or 6 releases, and dating back to 96 when Java came into existence. So in the first versions, like the Java 1, Java 2 and so on, so the Java 1 was initially called as JDK 1, and then there was JDK 1.1 which came out in 97. And the next version was J2 SE. Recall that Java SE was earlier called as J2 SE. So they had some inconsistent version numbers like J2 SE 1.2, 1.3 and so on. So the naming was very inconsistent. But in this course, let's call them as Java 1, Java 1.1, Java 2, Java 3, Java 6, Java 7 and so on. And I think everybody can understand that. So in the initial versions, let me just give you an idea about what came out in those initial versions. So before like Java 6, like in Java 1 and Java 1.1, they had only few hundred classes. Recall that each release comes with the Java library, and the Java library had only few hundred classes, and the platform itself in Java 1 and 1.1 was pretty slow. Then Java 2 came out, and it was a major release with addition of significant number of new classes. Okay, so there were large number of classes that got added, and more importantly, it was faster too, as it included the GIT compiler. Then after that, Java 5 came out in around 2004. It was also a pretty huge release. In between there were Java 3 and Java 4, but probably they are not that significant. Java 5 was really huge with new additions like generics and some new multi-threading features. And it had close to 2,500 classes. Then later Java 6, which we can see here, has come out. It did not add much to the language itself, but had some important changes in the JVM. So sometimes in certain releases, you will see more changes in JVM and fewer language changes. But now in the recent releases, it's mostly smaller features that are coming out. For instance, here, and some of them are preview features. For example, switch expressions was added as a preview feature, but later, so it was a preview feature in Java 13 also, but in Java 14, it became a permanent feature of the language. Okay, there is something called switch expressions. So some of them are released as preview features. They are not standard, and they may be removed in the next release too. If if developers do not like them and they get the feedback that it's not good, so they might remove the feature. So that's about it. And next we will install one of the latest versions of a Java SE implementation. So we'll install a JDK and we will get started. Thank you and see you in the next lecture.